देख रहे हैं डीडी कशिर, एहसास कश्मीर का।
Assalamu alaikum, dear students of class 12. This is Sheikh Gulzar Ahmed, your host today in this very Tele Class. I am from Diet Biro Badgam, and today we will be interacting on the textbook Flamingo. You know, it's your textbook in class 12. Today I have selected one of the very important stories, a lesson, the last lesson in your textbook. If you go to the index, you will see it's the first lesson. Fine? Yes. And about this lesson and the areas that we expect to improve through this lesson, need our concentration, need our focus. And believe me, I'll tell you everything that will certainly help you in improving your English language as a whole. And at the same time, you will see that the questions, I have almost targeted all those questions that are expected in your term and examination, right? So don't worry, be with me for the next, I think we are having 2 sessions on this very chapter, right? But I need you to glue with the TV screen and keep on watching, be patient, right? Because when we are teaching and learning at a distance, this needs extra care from your side. You have to be at ease, full of comfort, stay outside from the disturbance and commotion here and there, right? Shut the door, watch the TV, and keep on come along with me, and let's dive down into the waters of this very lesson and see what Alphonse Daudet, right, the writer of this very story, has for you and me. I think, to be very honest, this absolute food for our thought, and this will open our vision in so many novel directions where most of the times we think we are not concentrating. Today I would love to invite all the plus 2 lecturers of English language to come along and sit in this very class. And definitely, I assure you that this will be a hand holding for you as well. This will be a capacity building for all my language teachers across the classes from class 9, 10, 11, 12, because I'll be touching some of the very important areas like writing skills will be dealt with, right? So first, for my beloved students, in the COVID times, schools are closed, and this is one of the medium where we are face to face with you all, and where I understand that there are so many challenges that come in between. Somewhere you may say that electricity is not there, but okay, I hope that Direct School Education Kashmir is trying its level best. It's also coming live on, on YouTube. If you miss it on TV, I'm sure that our department is making arrangements to keep these classes available for you on YouTube, so that on your own normal timing, leisure time, when you feel free, you can come and hit that YouTube channel and watch these programs. Because after all, it's for you. You are the major stakeholders. You are tomorrow going to face the examination. You have to provide your feedback and understanding regarding these lessons in the classroom. So that's why we need your concentration. And I hope your parents will definitely support you in that. Provide you all kind of environment where you need to sit all alone, take your copy and pen, jot down, note down the points, take the notes, so that this will be a ready reference for you when you consult the textbook and see what the lesson is all about. Let me roll out today's program and maybe the program for 2 sessions with you, right? So, dear students, our program while dealing with this lesson, the last lesson, is like this, okay? Let me read it for you, fine? So that you will have an understanding, you will see what we are going to do, fine? Okay, come along. So, our topic is the last lesson, okay? It's written by Alphonse Daudet, fine? So, fine, okay. The subtopics. First of all, we will try to have a brief intro, information about the author himself, right? Alphonse Daudet, let us know about him, okay? Then, very, very important, I will provide you the crutch, the scaffold, simple words, the new words that are in this very lesson. Let us do them together. We will explain some of them. I won't be taking all of these because you have got dictionaries. I will just encourage and inspire you to go through the words so that the lesson, the reading comprehension passages in this very story become easy for you to understand, right? So that's scaffolding. Then we will go to the summary part of this very lesson, right? I will provide you the brief summary of this lesson, and after that I may be touching here and there somewhere the major text. Somewhere we can take the text also and we can focus on some of the topics. I will try to read it all for you if possible, okay? After the summary, right? We'll read the text, and I hope that you'll sit with me at your home. You will open the textbooks and you will also read, right? So after that, we will have the transitions in this very lesson from the beginning to the end. There are some important events, as I hope that you understand is the last lesson. So let us see how this teacher, we'll find a teacher in this very last lesson. He'll be delivering a class, and let us see how he is rolling out his lesson. What will he do inside the classroom? Okay, so there are some important events that he may perhaps talk about, and we will come to underline all these important events in this very story, because why we need them? We need them for our examination purposes on the first go. Then also it will help us to understand the structure of this very plot of this very story. Okay, that's it. Then, yes, the very important, the name of the teacher in this very story, the last lesson, is M. Hamel. Okay, we will talk about, or we will know about, or we will have a brief character sketch of Hamel, so that we understand him as a person, right? And then, yeah, we have another very, very important character, an innocent child, a little boy, and that is Franz, right? Let us know about who is Franz, and how he feels, what he believes, what he looks like, and all that. Okay, we'll come to know about Franz. And then I think the heart of the matter, the take-away point, that is the theme of this very story. Let us see what is for us, how this story can improve us, how this story will help us as students live better life. Soft skills, right? The skills of living a successful life. I think that will be discussed in this themes area. Then another very, very important point, why this story has been named as the last lesson. We'll try to justify the title of this very story. Okay, so that will be the title. Then yes, a very, very important point. I think this is the kernel. This is why this lesson is here. And this is why you and me today need to focus and concentrate on the last lesson. It will be talking about, and I'll try to make it simple for you, what is linguistic chauvinism. You got my point? Linguistic chauvinism, I'll talk about that. Fine? Then we will talk about linguistic minorities. You know? Come on. Jammu Kashmir is a UT where you have a plethora of languages. After every 20-30 kilometers away, you will find a new language. So let us see what this linguistic minorities is all about, and what are its after effects, causes, and how we can manage the integrity and the unity all through in the linguistic minorities. Okay? Then, yes, in our country, we have altogether a very special privilege. That's a gift. You know why? That is mandatory, national or new education policy that has been rolled in 2020, and we all are shifting to that. You will come to know the 3 languages that are taught in our schools. Here's a question about if it is why I am talking about linguistic chauvinism, because a question may be asked to you. Why I am talking about linguistic minorities, because this lesson focuses on that. Maybe a question will be asked on that. Why I am talking about 3 languages, because there is a definite question on writing skills. On you are asked to write a paragraph, develop a paragraph of using 3 languages or teaching 3 languages at school. Why? Is it giving you any kind of advantage, or is it an extra burden on your shoulders? Right? Let us try to debate on that as well in these 2 sessions. And finally, I think the most important part of any lesson. I think a lesson is never ever complete unless you go for the assessment. And then after going all these subtopics, I'll be having few MCQs for you, multiple choice questions. I will provide the options, right? I'll have the questions from here. Few of them we'll share together. I'll talk about these questions, and I hope that you will respond. But that means when you will go through these subtalks. Fine? And finally, once again, I am giving you a special gift. I will teach you how to write a notes. Is that okay? Yes, notes writing. So we will talk about all these things, inshallah, with the passage of time. And if we move through, now let us see the first thing. First things first, right? So dear students, let us come to the author first, right? Because after all, he is the person, he is the man behind this beautiful work, the last lesson. Okay, so the writer here is, it is Alphonse Daudet. It is Alphonse Daudet. He is a French author, okay, famous for his short stories and novels. His short stories and novels depict realism, okay, human sentiments and humor in a simple way. Now, the last lesson is one of his best known stories. You got my point? It's about national pride. It highlights the significance, the importance of education. It gives stress, it lays stress on not taking education for granted. The very, very important points I'm making here. It's a powerful story with contemporary approach, which is weaved in a simple narrative. That's, I think, about the author. then there is some background in the textbook about the same author, right? There are some dates, and then there is the name of the place which we call Prussian, where from we have an armed struggle. They are attacking actually French, and taking two cities of France, right? Then this is in the backdrop of that. It talks about that invasion, attacking on by Germany, now called, then it was Prussian, now it's known as this Germany, right? Germany attacked France, okay? Then they took, they invaded the two major cities, right? We'll talk about those two cities in the lesson, and then what changes are seen after that position, right? By those external forces, what happens in this part in France, in the cities of France, and how it changes. I think that is this lesson all about, right? So that was some brief intro about the orator, right? And you can have the dates jitne bhi hain, so you can kindly see the textbook, it's written there. So I thought that I need not repent that it is 1840, 1897. So kindly see the textbook yourself and underline these dates. Now I will move to some important business, that is the scaffolding technique, right? What is scaffolding? And let us have some. For example, you have few words like there it is. Okay, sawmill, right? It is sawmill, it is drilling. Okay, sawmill, it is drilling, and it is tempting. Yeah, sawmill, drilling, tempting, resist, right? So it is a bulletin board. So bulletin board, right? So after bulletin board you have this apprentice. Okay, apprentice. Then you have unison. Fine. And then you have wrapping. Wrapping, right? Wrapping. Counted on. Okay. Then you have motion. See, there are so many words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I am just discussing 10. Maybe I will discuss, I won't write many, but I will discuss, I will try to go through all. But the question is, unless you know these words, and whenever I teach my students, it's always a humble request to all of you to kindly make the new words your friends. When I use this word, make the new words your friends, what I mean to say is that making friends means using the words regularly. Wherever you get a chance, use these new words, and always when you are learning, acquiring a language, you need to speak that language. Is that okay? When you speak, you need words, and this is where from your words will come. This is why this lesson is taught, so that you learn, you understand these new words. I hope you understand that. Okay. Now, what is a sawmill? What is a sawmill? Right? Sawmill is a factory. What is it? Yeah, it's a factory for cutting wood, right? It's a factory for cutting wood. Yeah, a factory for cutting wood. Okay. Yeah. So that is sawmill. Now what's drilling? Drilling, I hope that in your school you must have heard your physical education lecturer or teacher telling you, let us go for drill. It's that. This is the word. Drilling means exercise, right? Exercising. You got my point? Exercise. March past 1, 2, 1, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, like this. Okay? So you see the armed forces. They are most of the times in this kind of situation where you see the tapping of their feet. You hear the voice, the drum like the beats of drums and all that, where you go for this exercise. Okay? So that's drilling. Okay? Then tempting. Tempting means when something attracts you, right? In these hot seasons, most of the times, ice creams are always tempting, right? Attracting. Okay. Then resist. Now what's resist? Yeah. What's resist? Something that is not going to stop you, right? To stay away means to stay away. When you want to stay away from some situation, and you want to stay away from some situation, that means you're resisting. You resist to go there, right? You resist to stay out. So we'll see in the textbook how it is used. Then a very important bulletin board, right? A simple notes board. Notes board. Okay. In your schools you see, in the verandas, in the ground floor you see a bulletin board is on the wall, where you see you can write. Most of the times in some higher countries we have seen that the important notices are pasted on this bulletin board, so that there is a general and mass communication with everybody who is concerned, right? So that's why we write notices. And by the way, we are attempting a notes writing task here in this class, maybe in the first part or in the second part. Is that okay? And then apprentice, right? Chela. Trainee. Apprentice is a worker who is working in some mill with somebody who is an expert, and a people who is learning the same kind of art with his master, right? So he can be called an apprentice. Fine. So bustle is also a word here, where there is huge rush here and there, people running here, there. Okay, a lot of noise created by many people. That is bustle. Then there is, yeah, rapping. Rap. Rap. Oh yeah, there is a unison. Before rap you have unison. That means in unison can be a complete expression. So it means at the same time. See, for example, in unison of talking to you, I am writing on the this blackboard, right? That means at the same time. At the same time. Yes? Okay. Then rap. A very important word. Rap means to strike. Okay? Rap means to strike with a rod, with a ruler. Right? Strike. And why this word here? You might have seen in these past times, olden times, right? Teachers used to have a ruler in their hand, and to create a kind of that discipline in the class, they would rap with the ruler on the tables and walls, They will strike it here and there, that's rap, so that a kind of discipline is maintained inside the classroom. Then it is counted on, right? Counted on. So what is counted on? Depended upon. When you depend on something, depended upon, right? That is counted on. Then it is commotion. Okay, what's commotion? Commotion simply means noise and confusion. Noise and confusion. Then let me go through some more words. It's blushed. Face. That means blushed means face turned red. That's blushed. Okay. Solemn. S-O-L-E-M-N. The pronunciation is solemn, but we write S-O-L-E-M-N. So that's a new word in this very lesson for you all. So that means serious. Okay. Then it is thumped. Okay. T-H-U-M-B-E-D. Thumped. It's silent here. Thumped. Okay. So it's torn. Thumb means, yeah, it is torn and damaged. Torn, damaged. So you see, the little children have those primers, those textbooks which are thumped, and these ends, they are torn. So that's actually thumped. Then gesture, you know, is signal. You show some kind of signal through moving your body or something like that. That is actually gesture. Then thunderclap. It is something startling or unexpected. That we call thunderclap. Okay. Wretch. Wretch has so many other meanings, but in this very text, wherever it is used, it used for happening something which is unfortunate. Right? That is why we call it is wretch. Unfortunate happening. Okay. Then we have another word like, yeah, there's a word like this. It is used with capital S-A-A-R-A. Sara. Right? It is Sara. So what is Sara? Yeah, it's a river which passes through France. Sara is a river which passes through France, and this has been mentioned in this very text. Okay. And then you have nuisance, that means problem, it's a burden. Then it is cranky. Yeah, cranky is another very important word that you need to use, is that short-tempered person, you know. Yeah, cranky is, what is cranky? Cranky is short-tempered. Yeah, बहुत जल्द गुस्सा होने वाला शख्स. So that is, we can say, he's cranky in behavior. So in this lesson, the last lesson, you will interact, you will find a person who is cranky. Okay, it's strange. And Sunday clothes. Sunday clothes. Yeah, Sunday clothes is something we call some new clothes, decorated clothes, special clothes, which you mostly wear on some special occasion, like it is prize distribution, like it is best dress that you want to wear on some special occasion, right? Then there is dreadful, is another word, which means frightening. And yes, you will see the student France mixing up in this very lesson. So mix up means confusing things. So pretend is also a word that means show off, right? Then you have reproach, which means blame. Okay? Then you have beetles, which means large sized insects. Scurry, rush. Okay? Cooed. Okay, another word. The sound made by a pigeon. Okay, gazing, looking intently toward, twisted. Trumpets, a musical instrument, right? Choked means become unable to speak due to strong emotions. Sometimes you want to say something, but you are too much excessive emotional and you choke. You are not able to speak properly because of your spontaneous emotions coming to fore, and you are not able to speak. The same thing happens with M. Hamel in this very story, so he gets choked. Okay, so these were some of the important words that I thought you need to know. Right? Now we will come to another very important. We covered, we talked about the author, we talked about scaffolding. Now let us have a brief summary of this very lesson. Right? So coming along with me so that I go through the summary and then I'll try to read the text for you as well. Fine? So, and we'll try to analyze, understand wherever we need. Now we have the scaffolding with us. I hope that you might have jotted down, noted down the difficult words that you will come across in this very textbook. And I hope that after simplifying writing, even you can use textbook the way I have used it. You are free to use these words, annotate your words. You can write the meaning here and there, right? It's wonderful. There is no problem in this. It is your textbook, but I will recommend you to use a pencil and write the simple meaning on the sides, those border areas of this very textbook, to make it simple for you to read. But I will strongly recommend here that only try to write the synonyms of the words. Don't write it in a translated form. That may hamper you to acquire the language, right? So write, for example, we have written drilling here. If you come across drilling in the textbook, write exercising on the other side. If you come to see apprentice, write training, okay? So if you see resist, write to stay away, like things. So this will help you later on when you go to summary portion or you read the text. This will help you to understand the passage, because it is very important for you as students that you are able to read the textbook, read the passages, read the lines, and comprehend them through the lines, between the lines we call them, and beyond the lines. That means inferential understanding of the lines, right? Draw inferences, very important. So let me just try to go through the summary part. See, I said that this is a story, this is a prose, the last lesson, and this is written by, it is written by Alphonse Daudet, okay? So he describes actually the situation of France in 1870, right? So at that time, the Germans were called Prussians, right? So the Prussian army had come, forces had come, and their commander was Bismarck at that time, and he attacked and captured France, okay? The French districts, this is very important now. The French districts, two French districts, right? The two French districts, namely, sorry, this is Alsace and Lorraine. Right? These are two districts. Zes, and then Lorraine, okay? Alsace and Lorraine. This is phonetic transcription, or the way you need to pronounce these two names of these districts of France. One district is Alsace and the another one is Lorraine. They were captured and they were taken away, right? So they went under the, they were captured by the army of Germany, which was at that time called Prussian, no Germany, right? So they went into their hands. Now what happened there? I'm just giving you the summary of the story. The new Prussian rulers discontinued teaching of France. This is actually the heart of the matter. So when these new rulers came, right, from Germany, in the very first instance, they ordered that this French language cannot be taught in the schools now. Okay, so they discontinued teaching of French in the schools of these two districts, particularly Alsace and Lorraine. Okay, the French teachers even were asked to leave. They were directed to leave these schools of these two districts. The story describes a last day of such French class. So this is the last day of French class, where the French teacher used to teach in English for 40 years. It is his last class because Prussians have taken over. It's now their territory, and they have ordered that all the French people should leave, the teachers should leave, and the language of French will not be taught anymore in the schools. So this is the last lesson, under such circumstances, of a teacher from France, and he is teaching French. He is a language teacher, okay? And his name is M. Hamel. So he could no longer be in his old school. He is giving his last lesson in utmost devotion, right? So he is delivering a class. One of his students, this is Hamel the teacher, and one of his students, Franz, who played truant, who steals away. Some of the time skips the school, bunk, in other words we call it. He plays truant, okay, with French class. On this day also he wants to stay out, as he is feared M. Hamel's rod, because M. Hamel the teacher is having a rod, a ruler in his hand, and Franz is scared of that rod. So he said that let me play truant today. Let me stay out in nature and enjoy the nature and the drilling of the foreign forces. Let me watch that. So, but he comes to school that day thinking he would be punished. Now, first he thinks of playing truant, then he resists, says, no, I will attend the school. He comes to the school that day thinking he would be punished as he had not learned a lesson. The teacher had actually given them a lesson that they should know the rules of participles in grammar, right? So he is not knowing anything. On reaching school, he found M. Hamel dressed in Sunday clothes. So it was unusual of M. Hamel that it is a school day. He was wearing a normal kind of dress. But on this very day, he was altogether wearing a different dress. So Franz got confused. The worst is he is wearing a beautiful dress, decorated dress, a new shirt, a dress that he normally wears or if there is any kind of party or celebration in the school. And then another thing is observed by Franz in the class on that day. What do you see? He sees all the old people of the village sitting there. All the old people of the village. He later learned that it was due to an order on the bulletin board. So later he comes to know, oh, there is actually an order from Prussian army that has been pasted on the bulletin board of the village. Here it is. Something is written, that's why these elderly old people are in the class. And that's why our teacher, Mr. Hamel or M. Hamel, is wearing his new clothes and he is in the class, right? And when he came to know this is actually the last lesson of M. Hamel, he realized for the first time, France, how important French was for him, that it was his last French lesson. So Franz suddenly came to know that this is the teacher's last lesson in this very school. Tomorrow he will not be with us. There will not be teaching of French language in this school anymore. Immediately, Franz comes alive to the situation, and he feels very deeply about learning of French, his own mother tongue. So this is the background, and this is actually the summarized version that I am providing to you guys, you people back at homestay. Okay, the story last lesson highlights the human tendency. Very important. See, kindly note my words, mark my words, because these will definitely build the superstructure of this very lesson. Actually, this is the crux that I'm trying to share with you all. So what is the human tendency that is highlighted in this very story? Unfortunately, it is procrastination. Do you understand what is procrastination? And I advise you all, my dear students, remember, procrastination is unfortunately avoidance. When you keep on avoiding things, when we most of the time will say that, okay, there's a lot of time, let me do it later. Let me do it tomorrow. Let me do it day after tomorrow. Today I will do this. Let me play today. Let me play truant today. Let me bunk this class. Oh, there's 1 year left. I can do it tomorrow. But you will see in this lesson today that when we procrastinate, which is unfortunately a natural tendency in all of us, because we put away things for tomorrow. And we never know how strange we are, that we never know that tomorrow never comes. Or if it comes, is it sure that we will be alive for that tomorrow? So, dear students, when this happens, this procrastination is there, man keeps postponing the lessons of life. It is a general kind of understanding that I am sharing with you all. Oblivious of, we always remain oblivious of the fact that life is subject to change. आज जो है कल नहीं हो सकता, चीजें बदलने वाली हैं. Procrastinate करना बहुत ही जहरीली चीज. It's very dangerous. The people, the same happens. The people of Alsace always thought they had plenty of time to learn the lessons. The वहाँ के students Alsace के, they thought that we have plenty of time. आज नहीं, कल, tomorrow we will do this, tomorrow we will do that, and we will learn. Therefore, they did not give much importance to the school. So in this village, what happened? Neither the parents, nor the elderly people, nor the students, same was the case with everybody. They didn't give much attention to school. They didn't give much focus, much importance to education. They said, okay, not today, we'll are busy, we'll do it tomorrow. So I told you what is the pathetic result of this procrastination, this avoiding of things. So what did they do instead of sending their children to school? They preferred sending their children to phones, right? They would send them out in mills instead to earn money, instead of having them learn the lessons. So one of the students was friends. Even let me tell you, our story starts with first person pronoun I. So we learn this whole story through the mouth. The author of this story is the young little student Franz. Franz is telling us this whole story, right? So he is the student in the class and he is the author. He is telling us the story. So Alphonse Daudet has created a character. It is written in first person narrative, where Alphonse Daudet, as a student, let us say, he creates a character Franz and makes him his mouthpiece, and he tells us all this story. So Franz was one of the students. He is the narrator, always looking for opportunities to skip the school, to play truant. And what uske interests kahan pe the? The little children, all of you, you can see your little, those kids, brothers and sisters doing the same thing at home. So Franz zyada khush hota tha. He would love to collect eggs of birds. Okay? So, however, the unexpected happens. So, sara kuch, Franz would waste his time outside in nature, and all other people will do the same thing, thinking that time will come tomorrow, we will send our children to school, or maybe we will study tomorrow. Unexpected thing happens under such circumstances. What is that? An order is received from Berlin the capital of Prussia at that time, the capital of Germany. And what does it is about compulsory teaching of German in schools instead of French. This comes the order कि अब आप French नहीं पढ़ा सकते schools में, you have to teach German. And this order is very strictly followed in Alsace and Lorraine. It is to be followed. So it is then that all of these people realize that they would be deprived of what they had been evading all this while. तो उस वक्त ये सारे लोग, बच्चे बड़े, उस गांव के, लॉरेन के, Alsace के, these two streets of France, they come along to the situation that unfortunately the time is gone and we are deprived of the most important treasure that we had, and that's our language. We were not able to learn language, and we didn't learn, we avoided, we procrastinated. So under such circumstances, the last French lesson taught by Hamel symbolizes, यहाँ पे कुछ symbolic meanings आ रही है, and what are these? So this lesson conveys the message of loss of language and loss of freedom for France. This is how Hamel shares his feelings and the feelings of the people, the children, everybody, that how big this loss is. It becomes an emotional lesson rendered by Hamel to the villages, signifying the changing order of life and its impact of the sensibilities and emotions of people. The marching soldiers under the windows, bahar se, the soldiers from Prussia, they are marching around the school, going somewhere. The noise is coming inside the classroom. It represents, it's symbolic, it represents the dawn of Prussians, that the German forces now are taking over. That time, I told you, Germany was famous, named as Prussian. It was not at that time Germany, right? The defeat of the French people and the resultant threat to the language and culture. So this was actually the problem. Now, this was the summary part. I hope that you understood. We will come to important events, I think, in next few minutes. Let me tell you what were some 5 important events that happened that day in the school on the last day. All students and some villagers, this was the first thing, all students and some villagers were present to attend Hamel's last class as a mark of respect. So the elders, the villagers had come to say goodbye to their French teacher who was asked to leave the school, and so that new teacher will come. He was wearing his best dress, which he normally wore on the occasion of prize distribution ceremony and inspection. On that day, he blamed the class for putting off learning their language to an indefinite time. He appreciates the language, French language, and requests them to guard it on that task today. अपनी जुबान की कदर कीजिए, इसको वैल्यू कीजिए. अगर आपकी अपनी जुबान है तो आप जिंदा हैं. अगर आपकी जुबान छिन गई, if your language is stolen, remember that you will destroy. आपकी as a unity, as an identity of the culture. याद रखना dear students, यहाँ से हमें भी मैसेज मिलता है कि when we abandon our mother tongue, माँ ज़ेरो, जो हमारी दूध के साथ माँ की जुबान हमारे पास आती है, when we abandon this, तो remember, this is end of that race. उस नेशन की, उस कौम की, ये समझ लेना चाहिए उस कौम को कि मैं दुनिया से खत्म हो रहा हूं, because I am just giving up my language. So our language is our pride. Our language is our identity. Our language is our culture. It's our tomorrow, so we must value it. And these were the words of Hamel on that special day of the last day when he was delivering his lesson. He taught on that special day. बहुत सारी चीजों को उसने पढ़ाया. He taught grammar, he taught writing, he taught history. He explained very patiently, and it seemed that he wanted to give them all. He knew before he went away. Right? At the end, he tried to address the class. Because these are last moments. After 40 years, 40 साल के बाद वो स्कूल को छोड़ रहा था, उसे जाना था, because जर्मनी ने टेक ओवर किया था, फ्रांस को यहाँ से निकलना था, वो अब गुलाम बन गए थे, they were enslaved, and these were his last words. He stood up in the class. अब उसने आखिरी लफ्ज बोलने शुरू किए, but he choked. He was not able to speak anything. And what were his last words? Vive la France. That means goodbye, God bless, long live France. So, with these words, I will continue in the second session. Inshallah, you will have second part of this lesson. I am truncating this deliberation here, but I am sure and I assure you, I will be back with you, inshallah, very soon. But right now, I tell you bye, Allah Hafiz, good luck, stay blessed. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I welcome you back. I hope that you remember the last part of the lesson that we were discussing. In the previous part, you definitely have been updated about the chapter, the story, last lesson in Flamingo in class 12, right? So we discussed some very, very important points. We talked about the background of the story, the last lesson by, right, Alphonse, okay, Daudet, okay. Then we talked about the story itself. I provided you some scaffolding for understanding the lesson, okay. Then I briefed the summary part of the text, okay. I summarized the text for you. And then I talked about some of the important events, some 5 very, very important events in the story. So I would love to take it from there again. So dear students, in this very story, right, so Alphonse Daudet, right, he tries to talk about actually some very, very important events that happened between 1814 1897, right. So I told you also that this is actually the child who becomes the mouthpiece of the author, and the author talks, uses this first person narrative, and it's the innocent child who raises so many questions, and he actually conveys the message from Daudet to us. So I want to tell you what happened on the last day, where we, you know, M. Hamel was the teacher, and when he, what he did inside the class. So these were the 5 things. First of all, you know that we witnessed that the classroom is full, and there are all the students are present in the last lesson, right? And reverse to the traditions, we see some village elders also sitting there at the back of the class on the bench, which usually used to be empty, right? So another very important thing that we notice about M. Hamel is that he was wearing his best dress, right, which he normally wore on the occasions of prize distribution ceremony, and if he had to go for some inspection. So this is another important thing that we see in the lesson. And third very, very important thing that we notice is that M. Hamel, the teacher, is actually blaming the class for putting off learning, for procrastination, that I think thoroughly discussed in the previous part of this very lesson. And then their language to an indefinite time. He tells them that you are procrastinating, you are avoiding, and you are not learning, acquiring your language. For that matter, here language means the French language, right? And then he appreciates, and yes, in this class he highly appreciates French language and says it's clear, it's logical, it's beautiful, है ना? And he also requests the people of Lorraine, and for that matter people of Lorraine and Alsace to what? To guard this language. And on that very special day, he teaches so many things. He teaches the text, he teaches grammar, he teaches history to the class. Okay, it seems that he wanted to give them all he knew before he went away. And it was his last day and he had to go away because there were some new orders from Germany that the local teachers will not be allowed to teach in the schools, and also the French language will not be taught in the schools. So these local teachers were shown door, they were sent out, and so new teachers were expected, and the villagers were expected to see a new teacher after 40 years. That's why on his last day M. Hamel tried to give everything that he had with him, right? So at the end I told you that he tried to stand up in front of the class and tell them, give some kind of emotional kind of advice, but he choked. He was not able to write anything. Finally he wrote 3 words I told you, and that is Vive la France, long live France. So these were a few things that he did in his last class. Now moving onwards, I think here I would love to quickly read some of the portions because they will help us. I won't be able to read it all, but for understanding, I think I need to touch upon some of the parts of this very text, right? I told you that the story, that this lesson, that this topic, it is in first person, right? Narrative technique has been used by Alphonse Daudet. Okay, so he says, and he uses one of a child in the school, and it is the child who becomes the mouthpiece, and he tells us the whole story of the last day of Mr. Hamel in the school of, Alsace. Okay, right? So here we are actually here. So Alsace is the pronunciation, and this is one of the districts actually of erstwhile France, right? And now erstwhile France, now it is Prussian that has taken over, and it is these people who actually now we know Prussian as Germany, and these are the German forces who have captured now 2 districts, and that's Lorraine and Alsace of France. And now the order has changed, everything has changed, and let us see how the story begins. Let me run through quickly. I'll allow to read 1-2 passages from the story, then we will talk about the important thing. I will come to that also. The next, that's about characters. So like this, see, I hope that you definitely have opened your textbooks, and let us read a few lines. I started for school very late that morning. It is Franz who begins to tell us the story of that last day. He says, I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of scolding. बहुत डर था, especially because M. Hamel, तो पहले लेट थे, दूसरा ये था कि M. Hamel had said that he would question us on participles. M. Hamel had given actually task on participles, a grammar concept, है ना, participles mostly grammar concept. So he was expected to respond on questions on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. So Franz innocently and very frankly says, मुझे participles के बारे में, I was knowing nothing. For a moment I thought of running away. This is that playing truant. I thought, उसने बोला नहीं स्कूल नहीं जाते हैं, running away and spending the day out of doors. It was so running away, and okay, because it was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping. So interesting. Fans के बारे में कुछ बातें पता चल रही है. He loves the chirping of birds at the edge of woods. In the open field, he loves fields, he loves sawmill, he loves the Prussian soldiers drilling there, right? So it was all much more tempting. तो उसको ये सारा कुछ tempting लग रहा है. But I had the strength to resist. But on one side he has this beautiful nature, but he has the strength to resist, to do away with this, not to go there, and he straight away takes the route to his school. So when he reaches without stopping, what can be matter, he sees so many people have assembled near that bulletin board. If you see, that's in the middle of the village of this Alsace, and there are so many people. So he gets confused. Franz gets confused. Why are so many people here? But he had a negative thinking about that bulletin board, because this was the place where from he always used to get bad news, negative news. So that's why he thought, oh, there will be something negative again. So there was a blacksmith who was standing there. His name was Watcher. So he was there, and his apprentice, his trainee was also with him. So they were reading the bulletin board. तो उन्होंने एक आवाज लगाई towards France, don't go so fast Bob, you will get to your school in plenty of time. आप शायद you are running so fast towards school कि आज़माबाद तक से स्कूल वक्त से पहले. तो this France thought कि it's a sarcasm, तंज कस रहे हैं, because I am most of the time late to school, तो शायद ये ऐसा कर रहे हैं. बहरहाल he reaches the school, and Hamel school. There is a garden. First he is into the garden, then there is the school. So school mein he describes the pure unusual scenes of school. He talks about the unusual scenes. What is there, what is usual and what is unusual? Let us talk about that. Firstly, the usual thing is that there is always bustle, there is noise, there is commotion. The students are taking their tables, sitting at their places, making noise, turning textbooks. They are talking to each other. So it's all commotion normally in the classroom. And then the teacher is also there. He's pacing here and there. He has a ruler in his hand. He raps that on tables and strikes very hard and speaks very loudly, right? So this all is actually, there is complete noise on normal days of the morning classes. But what happens on this very day? It is altogether completely quiet today. The students are quiet. The teacher is quiet, but he's pacing, he's moving in the class. And then there is another very important thing. The elderly people are sitting also inside the classroom. So he jumps to his table, desk, and sits silently. And then the teacher, he doesn't seem so angry, so cranky today. He's silent, and Franz fears of scolding, but he doesn't get, he's quite, nothing is told to him. And then Franz notices another very important thing, that the teacher is wearing a different dress today. It is very beautiful, it's attractive, he is wearing a different dress. What is all this? So he's not able to make, but when he sees the elderly, the older people of the village, they are also sitting there. He looks at their faces, all of them look sad. So this raises so many questions in the mind of Franz, that why are all these people sad, and why are they sitting in the class? Then Hamel stands up and he addresses Franz that you are late and we were starting the class without you. Now you are there, now sit. And he starts the class. He addresses the class. So he used the words like, dear students, now only this German language will be taught in the class. You will not be having classes on French language, because we have got an order for Alsace and Lorraine that the Prussian soldiers, army, they have taken over, they have captured, and they have passed an order that only German language will be taught. No French will be taught in the class. So this is my last class to all of you. So these words strike the very drums of the ears of Franz, and he feels thunderclap. These are truly thunderclap to Franz. He says, oh my God, why is it so that this is our last lesson? He feels extremely sorry because he thinks about his past, that he never paid an attention towards the class, and he never gave full concentration towards his studies. So he realizes the difference, and he suddenly develops a kind of love towards his textbooks, towards his class, towards his teacher. But before this, it was altogether hate and indifference, and he used to play truancy, you know, bunk the classes and all that. But when he sees that this is a lost class, and I will not be taught French in this class now, it will be German language, and our teacher will not be there, he will leave, and he comes to know all these things, he becomes extremely sad and ecstatic to know all this. Then finally we see the regrets everywhere, particularly the teacher. The teacher suddenly asks in between, when he teaches, he points towards friends and tells him, stand up and recite. He has to read something, but he mixes up words and he messes up everything, and he feels that I'll be scolded. He puts his head down in shame and feels that I will be now scolded in the middle. But it is again very strange. The teacher doesn't tell him anything but advises Hamel. Says, Hamel, now see, this is because of your procrastination that you are not able to speak or write your own mother tongue. I had advised you so many times, but you didn't listen to me. French was your own language, your mother tongue, but you don't know it. You showed indifference towards the real education, right? And not you only, the entire people of Alsace were indifferent. I was telling you again and again. But today, I will not blame you, friends, for this. Today, let me admit the truth. First of all, your parents are responsible for this tragic end. They preferred to send you for earning money, for farming, for going to work in sawmills, to earn money for their home, and they prioritized their thing to your education, and you missed it. Then he said, friends, I am also responsible. I blame myself that sometimes I gave you days off because I myself wanted to go for fishing, and I told you to go and enjoy. I am also sorry for that, because you had to you had to water my flowers. So this is, I am responsible also. Your parents are responsible, and you are also responsible. These are all regrets for all of us, that we cannot be able to do anything now because the time has gone. So finally, Hamel advises them to look after your language. It is because of your language that it is a kind of key that will free you from the prison of slavery. He gives them grammar lessons, and France today is so clear in his mind that he understands everything, as again as the previous days. Hamel explains in great deal with a lot of patience that day. After grammar, he gives a writing lesson. He gives them copies, while Alsace, this phrase, right? These words like these are written. So some beetles, some insects are moving there, but nobody gets distracted. They are very much involved. Everybody, even the elderly people, are turning the primers and reading very seriously on the books. And Hamel, at the end, looks around on everything, the teacher. He wants to click a picture of the existence of the room, whatever is there. So they take the last moments to have an image of lost things in the room with him, and he wants to leave with these things, because on the next day he is supposed to leave, right? So this way the day concludes, and his last words, I told you, are Vive la France, long live France, and this story ends, right? So then this is how the story goes on. Then we have two important characters, right? The first character is yes, it is Hamel. Hamel, the teacher. If I tell you, Hamel was very good, very devoted, dedicated, right, and a strict man of discipline, and a sincere teacher who dedicatedly served the school for long 40 years. Berlin, the heart of this true Frenchman totally broke when he received the order from Berlin to vacate the school. Okay, so because a new German teacher was coming, he remained upset during his last class. This changed his behavior too, and he behaved rather very politely and patiently on that day. When Franz was not able to repeat the lesson correctly, he, instead of scolding him, just made him understand the importance and relevance of learning the mother tongue. He preached everyone present in the class that important things should never be postponed in times, as time flies very fast. So this was a brief character. I know you know the nuances of character writing, right? So for example, if you want to write a character, the first thing is that you should scan the physical features of a character, like hair, color, height, right? So then you should scan the personality traits. Was he funny, serious, quiet, a particular? Then talk about the likes and dislikes of a character, right? So what he prefers and what he doesn't. Talk about the character's family, right? Talk about the character's beliefs, emotions, hobbies, right? So try to see the character, right? Write the words, adjectives as if you're seeing the character, or if somebody reads your character sketch and he's able to see how the character looks like, right? And also you write, if you want to sketch the character, write, do you like the character, why? If you hate the character, why? Write about that, right? So draw your, and write also what is the point in the text that draws you towards the character, right? And or that forces you to show kind of antipathy towards the character. So these are few things, this is an outline which you need to remember when you draw a character. And then moving to the character of Franz. Franz was a young boy, you know, living in the Alsace district of France, okay, which was captured by now Germany. He had a layman's attitude to studies. He always used to play truant, right? At the beginning, we find him feeling tempted. You know? When the lesson begins, we feel him tempted to skyve his class, to bunk his class. However, we also come to know his inner strength of character when he overcomes that temptation that I will not go out, I will move to the class. We come to know his patriotism and love for his teacher after he comes to know about the sad news of the new order, according to which teaching of French had to be replaced with German, right? So he is shocked to know that Mr. Hamel, this was the M. Hamel's lost lesson. Alright, so this is Franz, and before that I told you what kind of person was M. Hamel. Then let us see the basic theme of this very lesson, because that is where we need to talk about, right? We will rush through the theme. So try to note my words. First of all, it talks about chauvinism. 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 What is chauvinism? Please remember it. Chauvin, S-H-A-U, yeah, because this is the heart. Chauvinism, right? Oh, chauvinism, right? This phonetic transcription, chauvinism. So what is chauvinism? You need to understand. It is a devotion, an aggression, right? An unreasonable belief just based on one's feelings. जज्बात से काम लेते हुए, when you show aggression, when you show tendency towards something, when you show devotion, not necessary what one knows. ये नहीं है कि what is your knowledge, but still feelings काम करती है when you show some type of chauvinism. So what is in this very lesson? That is chauvinism. It is linguistic chauvinism. So what is linguistic chauvinism? It is the idea that one's language is superior to that of others. Here in this very lesson you can simply see that how this linguistic chauvinism is shown by none other than the people of Germany who capture the 2 districts of France. Okay, so this happens generally when the language is that of the ruling class. So linguistic chauvinism, when does it come into force? Linguistic chauvinism comes into force when somebody captures some other land and they enforce their language there. So that means it is linguistic chauvinism. Linguistic chauvinism refers to the imposition of one's language on others. Language, remember, is considered. It's very important that we need to understand. That is what we understand from this lesson. Language is considered to be the cultural identity of the people who use it. Language is the pride of a country. Remember it, as it defines the cultural history. We must get enrooted and connected to our language. That is very important. And then the last lesson raises this burning question. This lesson raises this burning question very innocently through the words of France, the little France. When he uses that beautiful sentence in this very lesson, if you read this lesson, you will see that once he makes mention of this line, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? This raises the question of imposing the language on others. The child questions that when even the birds and animals can't be forced to abandon their language, then what forces a man to enforce this foreign language on the local people? So very, very unfortunate. So there is another second very important theme of this very lesson, and that theme is the last lesson revolves around the language. It talks about the language and its importance to the citizens of a country. So एक मुल्क में कौमों के लिए, लोगों के लिए, आम इंसान के लिए जुबान की, अपनी मादरी जुबान की कितनी इंपॉर्टेंस है, that is the point this lesson talks about. It is the duty of every citizen to safeguard the language of the country, to safeguard their own language, as it is the identity of that country. Remember this. The lesson depicts how after defeating France in the war, the Prussians wanted to rule over not only the country. उन्होंने नहीं चाहा कि हम सिर्फ ये जो है फ्रांस है तो उस पर रूल करेंगे, but they also over the minds and hearts of the people. So if you want to rule the minds and hearts of the people, snatch their language and enforce your own language there. This is very interesting. The story reinforces the fact that we value something more when it is lost. See, a बहुत ही important point एक और है कि हम तभी चीज़ों का value समझते हैं जब हम उनको खो जाते हैं, when we lose them. The pain and anguish of the students and the teacher is evident as everyone realizes how things were taken for granted. हाँ, सबने वहाँ पे चीज़ों को for granted लिया था. They were not giving full importance to education. They were not giving importance to learning of language, and this was the result. The lesson emphasizes the importance of the mother tongue for everyone. इस पे बहुत ज़्यादा मदर टंग पे इस लेसन में फोकस किया गया है, and the need to realize the fact that it is our language which gives us our three things: our identity. Remember this. Our language, our mother tongue gives us our identity, it gives us respect, and it gives us, freedom. Absolutely. So now let us rush through and try to talk about the title, justify the title, why it is the last lesson. So the story, the last lesson highlights the human tendency. जो मैंने पहले भी first part में I talked about this, that there is plenty of time to do things. हमें बहुत ये एक misconcept है इंसान को कि हमारे पास बहुत टाइम है. अगर हम सूरह असर होली कुरान में, there is a beautiful surah of 3 verses, wal asr innal insana lafi khusr, that tells that I take witness, I take witness of time. टाइम को मैं शाहिद रखकर इसका कसम खाकर कहता हूं कि ये क्यों कहा गया, क्योंकि आगे ये समझा गया कि टाइम runs very fast, right? So you can, I think the best example, if you talk to an ice cream seller, tell him that he understands the value of time. Or in Olympic Games, tell the runner-up, the second player who runs after the first winner, that in a friction of, I think, nanosecond, he loses and comes on the second place. He will tell you the value of time. So this is what we understand in this lesson. The man keeps postponing the lessons of life, oblivious to the fact that life is subject to change. The people, right, you understand, of Alsace always thought they had plenty of time to learn the lessons, therefore they didn't give much importance to the school. They preferred their children to work on the farms and mills instead of having them learn the lessons. In France, the narrator always looked for opportunities to skip school and look for birds' nests or go sliding on the banks of the river Saar. Okay? However, the unexpected happens and an order is received from Berlin where the language teaching of German stopped, and it is said that now only which language will be taught? Teaching of German in school, the teaching of German in school is compulsory, and French language is not to be taught anymore in these schools. So that's actually why we can say the last lesson where Hamel stands up, says, "Vive la France, long live France," and gives complete devotion to that lesson, describes how the title is justified. Okay? Now, what is linguistic chauvinism? Briefly, I want to tell you, it means an aggressive and unreasonable thinking or tendency of mind that your own language is superior to all other languages in the world. This shows excessive or prejudiced support for one's own language. And that is how you can see this thing happening here when French language is not allowed, only Prussian language is actually, it is enforced on the people, right? Sometimes pride in one's own language goes too far, and the linguistic enthusiasts can be easily identified by their extreme zeal for the preservation and spread of their language that you can see in this very lesson. In their enthusiasm, love and support for their own language, they tend to forget that other languages too have their own merits, long history of art, culture and literature behind them. Instead of bringing unity and winning over others as friends, having excessive pride on one's own language creates ill will and disintegration. So this is also very, very important. Out of what happens in linguistic chauvinism, there is disintegration, there is ill will, there is hatred when you enforce your language on others. Everybody, every nation, every country should be allowed to speak in their mother tongue. We should not force the foreign language on others. So this is linguistic chauvinism. Then if you talk, there's a question in this very lesson that is about linguistic minorities, or how do you, there's a question like this, how do you think they can keep their language alive? So how can linguistic minorities keep their language alive? So this also is a part which you, for example, Punjabi in Bangalore, Tamilians in Mumbai, Kannadigs in Delhi, and Gujaratis in Kolkata. For example, if we talk about this and see what happens in linguistic minorities, we can say that in a state, linguistic minority in a state is easily marked and faces the same discrimination as a religion. That means, in other words, when some people or a huge group of people migrate from one state to another and they settle down there and they want to do their economic activities there, so there is a discrimination with the locals on the basis of religion, on the basis of social or ethnic issues, right? There is, however, a pronounced difference in the treatment meted out and the level of acceptance displayed by the majority community, unfortunately. In the region city, some cities like Delhi, Mumbai are cosmopolitan in outlook. Yes, this is very interesting. If you take Delhi, if you take Mumbai, if you take Kolkata, right, or for that matter Bangalore, they are cosmopolitan. So that means you won't see a single section of people having any kind of that majoritarian kind of power. No, you have people from all around the country there, so it is cosmopolitan in nature. You don't see a single thing being projected there, so it is quite comfortable for all. But the linguistic minority tries to preserve its identity. How it can? Because there's a question how they can preserve there. It is by intimate contacts. For example, if you see people moving from Jammu Kashmir to other parts of this country, they stay together, and what they do, they interact with each other. So they get together in social setup. There is family, when there are family functions, when there are festivals, they make it a point that they will speak in Kashmiri, so in their regions, so their customs, they keep alive their customs, they keep alive their traditions, and in these family meetings and groupings, they promote unity between members of the linguistic minority. So they sit together and promote that kind of unity when they talk about their culture, they talk about their traditions, they talk about their festivals, they enjoy all these things together. So this way, they can keep their language alive. So in short, what can we see? In our country, we can see Punjab in Bangalore, a mini Punjab in Bangalore, a mini Chennai in Mumbai, a mini Surat in Delhi, isn't it? A mini Kolkata, right? So a mini Surat in Kolkata and a mini Bangalore in Delhi. So this way, when people come here and they create their own groups and share their traditions and all that, and this way the linguistic minorities can keep their language alive. A question can come on this. So I gave you a brief this outlook on this. Kindly take note of these things, right? Then, you know, I told you at the very first outset that there is the question of 3 languages at school. We are taught 3 languages in most of the states in India, you know. 3 language students have to study 3 languages, you know. In here, Jammu Kashmir, very clear we learn mother tongue Kashmiri, we have English, we have Urdu, right? And in Jammu part, we have Dogri, we have Hindi, and we have English. And in Ladakh, you know, it is Ladakhi, it's Bodhi, and then it is Hindi, and then it is finally English. So everywhere English is there is no doubt about that, because it's international, it's a link language, right? So that's why it is everywhere, and even in Kashmir, you see in Jammu, it's medium of instruction at the moment, right? That's why we need to learn. So the 3 language formula helps in national integration. Remember, this is very important. By acquainting young students about the social customs, rituals, culture and traditions, okay, of the various aspects of the country. These 3 languages, when we learn them, we are able, a southern man from south can understand the language from the north, and from the north to the east and west, because we, at least these 3 languages allow us to intermingle and talk to each other. So it also focuses on the principle of unity in diversity. In this huge country called India, the unity in diversity is only possible because of having these 3 languages together. The only drawback is that it puts an excessive burden on the minds of the students. There is no doubt about that. हमें बच्चों के कानों पे बहुत ज़्यादा 3 ज़ुबानें सीखने के लिए there is some kind of burden that we understand. To alleviate their problem, the course of study in 3 languages may be structured suitably. So हम suggest करेंगे कि there should be some suitable kind of arrangement when we are just giving our students to learn these 3 languages. Okay, so that was all from this lesson. I think we talked about linguistic chauvinism, we talked about linguistic minorities, we talked about 3 languages at school, we talked about the title, we talked about themes, we scanned the characters. Now remains the most important part, है ना? 2 important parts जिन पे हम बात करने जा रहे हैं. So what will be these two parts? Let us see, and let us see how we can manage all that, right? Okay, friends. Now, assessment. Okay, so let me share some MCQs, but here let me be very honest. I want you people to do one thing. What will you do? You will do one thing. Let you write down kindly these questions. Will you? Try to do it. For example, now you have read this lesson. Okay? Okay, dear. Now, base it on linguistic chauvinism. The lesson has been penned down by. Now tell me, the lesson has been penned down by, the first one is Robert Frost, second one is Ruskin Bond, third one is, who is the third one? It is Alphonse Daudet, Alphonse Daudet, and the fourth one is Ogden Nash. Okay, so this is, you have to tick the right answer. Okay, check to see which is the right answer. The first question. Now, what is chauvinism in context to this chapter, last lesson? What is chauvinism? आपको बोलना है chauvinism किसे कहते हैं? What is chauvinism in context to this lesson? When you have this lesson, you read it. Now, if I ask you what is chauvinism, I will give you 4 answers and you have to respond to them. The first one is being brutally honest. In the context of this lesson, the last lesson, chauvinism means being brutally honest. Number 2, devotion for or against something based on your feelings, right? An act of bravery, none of the above. Okay? Yes. Please mark these words. What is now third question? Right? For example, the third question is, what is linguistic? First question was, what is chauvinism? Second question is, what is linguistic chauvinism in context this last lesson? And the responses are yes. The response are idea, number 1, that one's language is superior to others. Number 2, speaking nothing but the truth. Number 3, making use of brutally honest words. Number 4, none of the above. Okay? When does linguistic chauvinism prevail in the context to the context to the last lesson? Okay, your answers are during debates, when the language is that of a ruling party, during lectures, amongst people of different castes. Okay, what does linguistic chauvinism refer to, as in the chapter, the last lesson? Imposition of one's language on others, loving the language of others, using the same language always, all of the above. Another question, what is considered to be the cultural identity of the people as in the chapter, the last lesson? Number 1, food. Number 2, clothing. Number 3, shelter. Number 4, language. Question next. Why is the language the pride of the country as in the chapter, the last lesson? Because it defines, number 1, because it defines the cultural history, because people use it lovingly, because it conveys the message of the heart, because there is a variety of it. Which burning question does the last lesson arise? Very important. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, imposing the language on others, all of the above. Okay? So, try it. So, to be very precise, let me help you to understand this. The first one, based on linguistic chauvinism, the lesson has been penned down by. मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि आप सब ने अल्फोंस डोरे लिखा होगा. That is very true. In response to question number 2, being brutally honest, what is chauvinism in context to the chapter? तो आई होप कि आपने आंसर नंबर 2 दिया होगा, डिवोशन फॉर और अगेंस्ट समथिंग based on your feelings. What is linguistic chauvinism in context to the chapter? I hope कि आपने जवाब दिया होगा कि it is an idea that one's language is superior to all other languages. What does linguistic chauvinism, or when does linguistic chauvinism prevail in context to the last lesson? I hope कि आपने लिखा होगा when the language is that of the ruling party. Okay? So what does linguistic chauvinism refer to as in the chapter the last lesson? I think आपने आंसर दिया होगा imposition of one's language on others. Very true. What is considered to be the cultural identity of the people as in the chapter last lesson? The answer will be language. Right. Why is the language the pride of the country as in the chapter the last lesson? Yeah, the answer is number 1, because it defines the cultural history. Another last question. Which burning question does the last lesson raise? It raises the question imposing the language on others. Okay? So there are some ये questions आपके लिए रखता हूँ, आपको घर में करने पड़ेंगे. Okay? Yes, kindly do it. Number 1, what was France expected to be prepared for the school that day? France को उस दिन क्या प्रिपेयर करके आना था? Very simple participles. Why was France tempted to play truant from school? उसे truancy क्यों करनी चाहिए? Why he wanted to stay out of the school, not to go there? Because he was scared, he was late, he was interested in collecting bird eggs, he was interested in watching the drills of the Prussian soldiers and all that, right? So he wanted to be outdoors in nature. What had been put up on the bulletin board? तो क्या लिखा गया था bulletin board पर? That, okay, what? That French? Yeah, exactly. French language will not be taught. It will be now something else, right? So these are some of the questions that you need to answer. So very quickly, I will go to a very, very important area of writing skills, and in 5 minutes, I will tell you, here is a question, you know, about writing notes. Fine? So let me help you. This is an important format about writing of notes, is how to write a notes, because on the bulletin board in this very lesson you have seen there was a notice written where it was forbidden in the schools that French will be taught in the schools. French language was forbidden and only German language was to be taught in the schools after the aggression, after the capture of Francis Tuestes, Lorraine and Alsace by German forces, by Prussian forces. So let us see, because you will be asked in your examination to write a notice, right? So let us first of all see what is the format of notice. So here first of all, leave a line here. Remember this. Leave a line, okay? Yeah, leave a line here, and then write name of the institute. आप जहाँ से आप ये लिख रहे हैं तो write the name of that institute. Okay, then write the date here. Okay, very good. Write the date and then come down and write the write notice here. Right? Okay. So here, sorry, write N-O-T-I in capital, in caps. Write notes here and then write heading here. Right heading here. You got my point? Very good. Now here again, leave a line. Leave a line, and after that write the main body. This is your main body. You got? Excellent. And after that write this should be 50 to 60 words. Fine. And then third person always. In third person. Write it in third person. Okay, fine. And then write what is the event. Okay, and write what is date, time and venue. Date, time and venue. Right? Okay, excellent. That's wonderful. Let's go a bit down, because yeah. Then leave a line here. Leave a line. Leave a line. Okay, and after that signature, your signature, and then designation. Who are you? Your designation. Who is writing the notes? Okay, that's it. Leave a line here. Here, leave a line. So this is actually the format. Leave a line, name of the institute, notes, date, heading, leave a line here, then it's man body. Here you write 50 to 60 words. It should be in third person. Write the event, write the date of the event, write the time of the event, and write the venue where the event will take place. Then here leave a line, make your signature, write your signature, write your this designation, and then again leave a line. Okay? Then there is a question for you. Fine? Okay. Write a notes. Now, following this format, this is the format. You follow this format and write a notes for your school bulletin board. Your notes could be on an announcement of a forthcoming event, or a requirement to be filled in, or a rule to be followed. For example, if you want to write a notes, let us try to do it very quickly within a minute. I hope we will be able to do it. For example, write government, for example, HSS Bureau Badgaum. Fine? Okay, this should be the title you write here. Then write 23rd August 2021. This is your date. You got a point? Okay. Then write notice here. Fine? Okay, fine. That's very good. Let us have the heading like opportunity after 12th or SSC, right? 12th class के बाद बच्चों के पास क्या opportunities है? Noted, for example, counselor Mr. Aslam. Okay, noted counselor Mr. Aslam will deliver, ये body है, a talk. Noted counselor Mr. Aslam will deliver talk on opportunities after SSC, secondary school examinations. Okay, as per details given below. As per details given below, right? For example, you write three things: date here, whatever the date is, then you will write time, you will write venue, okay, kab kya hoga, then okay, then straight away come to, for example, here after leaving the line, Gulzar, school secretary. Okay, so this is, friends, very simple. You can see this is how you can attempt a notes, and believe me, a very important question is asked on writing notes. You got my point? So this is how you can write a notes. I showed you the format, and then I showed you how you can write a notes as well. And take care of writing in bold all the headings, name of the institute, then date, and then the heading, and this is the body, date, time and venue is very important, and then your signature and your designation. And yes, keep it in the format, and yes, leave space from all the border sides, and leave lines after this name of the institute, after the date, and after this when you write date, line and time, leave a line there and leave line at the end also. So this way you are completing a notes as well, right? So this will definitely help you, and I hope that through the two, I think these were some rigorous sessions on the last lesson. We talked about almost everything that is very important, compulsory to you. Now the ball lies in your court. I hope you have jotted down all the words, dates, concepts, notes. Now you need to go through all this, and you are highly prepared for the exams and for your life. I wish you all the best. Good luck. Assalamu alaikum.